Republican Congressman Andy Biggs, House Judiciary Committee member, chairman of the House Freedom Caucus. That's new, and congrats on that. Good to see you.
Thanks, Harris.
First of all, let's start off with Rudy Giuliani. He says first he's got to check with lawyers about that client attorney and executive privilege to make sure that gets worked out, but he's almost certain he'll appear.
Yeah, I think Rudy going to appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee is a good thing. I think it's important. I think he's going to provide information that's going to counterbalance some of the stuff that's coming out constantly, drip by drip, contextually set up by the Democrats. And so I hope he does go and says what's on his mind, because I think he's got some facts that we're just not hearing.
All right, that's on the Senate side, but I wanted to get your thoughts on it. You're also Judiciary on the other side of the chamber there. So the subpoena from Democrats today. Talk to me about what this means, and I do want to bring this up if we can. This is from Ambassador Sondland, those text messages with former U.S. Ambassador of Ukraine, Bill Taylor. Taylor says, as I said on the phone, I think it's crazy to withhold security assistance for help with a political campaign. Gordon Sondland says, Bill, I believe you are incorrect about President Trump's intentions. The president has been crystal clear, no quid pro quo of any time. Of any kind, rather. But the president, White House blocking Sondland from testifying. And you say what?
Well, we really don't have an impeachment inquiry. We don't have even a House Oversight Committee acting like a House Oversight Committee. What you have is a chairman and his committee members rooting around, hoping to contextually set something up for an impeachment. And so I think the president's exactly right here. This thing is off the rails. There's no process. There's no procedure. The House rules, the House precedents, none of those are being followed. And they're doing it because they're hell-bent on trying to impeach this president, which doesn't make sense to me. I think the president knows that the ambassador would actually be helpful to him with his testimony. But
interesting.
But you've got closed-door hearings going on, for Pete's sakes.
You know, I want to step in with this nugget of information that we are learning about Ambassador Sondland, and that between those text messages, there were several hours that passed, and sometimes that happens. You can be out to dinner, who knows. But in that time, we do know that Sondland actually talked with the president before he came back and said no quid pro quo of any kind. I know you say that he could probably help the president. Could he?
Yeah, I think he could be helpful.
And that's not problematic to you?
Well, look, not really, and I'll tell you why. If I received some kind of text, I might call the president and say, look, you know, what I know about this is this, and maybe he's confirming it. I don't think that's problematic. I don't think that they believe that this is going to be released and leaked to the whole world, and yet this stuff keeps coming out to the whole world. But I don't think it's problematic for him to say, look, that's not what the president was doing. And you know what? If this was an open-door hearing and it was a normal impeachment hearing, the president's counsel would be there. Republicans could subpoena witnesses. And you could maybe get to the bottom of all this and get to something that makes the American people understand what happened. But the way this is happening with the Democrats in charge is just absolutely, utterly so biased that...
Congressman, do you see us going down that road? I mean, Nancy Pelosi knows that, you know, at some point the president is pushing through a letter that he wants a full impeachment vote, articles of impeachment vote on the House. She may or may not have the votes. Everywhere I'm reading, she's short by at least 8. Do you think we're going in that direction? Do you think we'll get there? And then that way Republicans can subpoena and they can do what they need to do on the other side of the aisle. Well,
I think the reason she did the way she did is because she doesn't have the votes. And her base and the people who control her in Congress, that faction within Congress that's really left, pushed her real hard on it. So I think ultimately, though, she's going to keep pushing to get the votes, even though I think she knows it's a huge mistake. And the reality is, if she does, then we get some authority back that they're denying to us if they follow the rules. But they haven't followed them so far. Why would I expect that they would?
You know, Congressman, you've introduced a resolution to censure Adam Schiff over his parody reading of President Trump's phone call with the Ukraine president that happened during a recent House hearing. What are you looking to do here?
Well, I think we have to acknowledge that Mr. Schiff is completely off the rails. If this truly were an impeachment inquiry, Harris, you're not going to have a closed-door hearing. You're not going to prevent the Republicans from having access to counsel for the president. The way this is unfolded is absolutely an abuse of power and authority, and that's really what we're getting at. So when you stand up before the American people and you mislead them with that phony parody, and it indicates you don't take it seriously because it's a parody. That's meant to be comedic. Number two, it means you don't take it seriously because you are basically injecting and falsifying information and evidence. And that's the problem with Mr. Schiff.
All right. Our viewers right now, and I don't know if you can see this, but we're scrolling the names of 83 Republicans who are co-sponsoring your bill to censure Schiff. You know, Americans will look at this, they hear things like censure and contempt of Congress, and nothing ever really seems to happen. What does that mean? What is the end game here? And does it affect the impeachment inquiry at all?
Well, the end game would be that they need to get someone in charge of a real impeachment.
Who would you rather see?
Inquiry. You know what? None of the chairmen that are involved in this, whether it's Maxine Waters, Elijah Cummings, Elliott, or Adam Schiff, really, and Jerry Nadler has blown it as well. They're not fair arbiters. So there's got to be somebody. I believe they're fair arbiters, but they may be younger and inexperienced, and they're not going to put them up to be chairman of a committee like this. Some of the people that came into Congress when I did, they don't have the seniority, so they're not going to get the opportunity. But I think they would be fair arbiters. And I don't want to say any of their names because they'll get thrown under the bus by the left. But I can tell you that there are a couple that I think are fair.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's an honest answer. I mean, really, what I kind of expect you to say is, well, I don't want impeachment. I'm not picking anybody. But you gave a really honest answer. And thank you very much. It's always good to see you. Hi to everybody in Arizona.